Hey there. If you've watched a few videos on this channel, then you're probably aware that I like to explore very interesting different places. Sometimes you'll see me climbing at high altitude on a mountain. Sometimes traversing somewhere very hot or very cold. You'll often see videos of me underground in ancient tunnels or swimming through the ocean. To get to very special places, you often need a very special guide. And in this video, I'm going to share some lessons that I've learnt by spending time around such special guides. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to talk in terms of an ascent to the peak of a mountain. But the lessons can be applied to any journey when a guide is helping someone reach somewhere very special. The best guides are those who truly immerse themselves in the environment that you wish to explore. That would be, in the case of a mountain, a Sherpa or local person. Someone who was born on the mountain and knows the mountain as their own. It could also be someone who's dedicated their entire life to the lessons of the mountain, like a wandering monk who lives there. The journey to the top of the mountain, it brings with it great rewards. The challenges which you will face allow you to improve on all levels. Likewise, the experiences that you have are priceless and transformative. In ancient times, it was believed that the journey wasn't being made for you, and that you were going to the peak to bring blessings back down for others. Because the journey has inherent dangers, and because everyone travelling together needs to work as a team and in harmony, a good guide needs to make sure that everyone joining him has certain qualities. The first quality they need to have is genuineness. They have to really want to go to the peak of the mountain. He needs to make sure that they have a clear vision of the exact goal of the journey, where he will take them to, and that they don't have inner conflicts or confusions which, when under pressure, will cause problems for themselves or others. Likewise, he needs to make sure that anyone wanting to go to the top of the mountain is capable of doing so. This, of course, is both in terms of physical fitness, mental toughness, adaptability, and the skills necessary to make the trek or the climb. Likewise, he needs to make sure that that person has a full understanding of what's involved in the journey, so that he knows they have a realistic vision of what's taking place. He also needs to make sure that the people that he allows to join the party are able to be guided and willing to be guided. Now, in order to make sure that people who meet this criteria, and only people who meet this criteria, are going to be guided on this adventure. There are certain very wise things that I've seen such guides do. The first thing they do, which is either by design or by nature, is make sure that they're not very easy to find. Normally, to actually seek out a guide capable and willing to take you to such a special place, you need to make some of the journey yourself. And this journey involves a test of competence in the same skills that you will need for the whole adventure. So, by living halfway up the mountain, or a distance up the mountain, it means that people who are hill walkers and maybe dream of going up the mountain will discover that this isn't really what they want to do. So that guide can be sure that almost everyone that arrives at his doorstep is actually genuine. They're not just dressed like an adventurer, they really are one. The second thing that they do, which is very powerful and shows how genuine someone is, may surprise you. They never take anyone for free. If someone is willing to pay for this journey, then they have invested in this journey. When I first heard this, it was actually from a Bedouin, and he mentioned to me that any time in his life he had allowed someone to come on a journey through the desert or up a mountain for free, they had turned out to have inner conflicts which caused problems for everyone. Not only did the fact that one person in the party hadn't invested in the journey cause inherent disharmony, but also the person would have some conflict that meant they didn't feel they should pay. So they would often question judgments and cause problems in the strategies or approaches used. When I remarked that there could be some genuine reason why someone couldn't afford to pay for a guide, the Bedouin held his clothing, which was very worn, and said, if someone can't afford to pay the fees for someone who lives in the desert, they have a different mountain to climb. The next thing these guides do to make sure that everyone on the party should be on the party is make sure that they have their own clothing and equipment. Only lend one item. And this is both for practical reasons, but also for group mentality. If the person has bought in to where they're going, they will behave very differently than if they are given everything to get there. So make sure that people who object to taking on the garb of the environment they're going to be going into examine their own motives. If you aren't willing to wear snow boots or a proper outfit for cold temperatures, there may be part of you that isn't willing to really go to this environment. The next important lesson, which I've observed many times, is to make sure that people have time to decide. Someone may come to you and say, can you take me to this volcano tomorrow? And if you say yes, it doesn't give them enough time to make up their mind as to whether they really want to do it. And it's a very good test of genuineness just to give them a day or two to mull things over. This gives their inner self time to bring up any objections and time for them to sort everything out. The final thing, which I think is very important and a lesson we can learn for any of us who wish to guide others, is to make sure the person understands every part of the process, both intellectually and emotionally. Sometimes I've seen this done with pictures. Sometimes I've seen this done by taking a person to see a scene. Often someone who speaks the native language of the person considering the journey is brought in for this. And the aim is to make sure that every stage of the journey, and indeed the landmarks and challenges along that route, are described in detail. And then the person who's asking to be guided needs to explain back their own conception of the journey. And I've noticed that this process is repeated until the two more or less match, so that we know that everyone knows exactly what's happening, what's involved, where we're going, how we're going to do this. These lessons all combine beautifully, and they make sure that a cohesive, safe team are on the journey together, and with this method can learn the greatest of lessons, have the most amazing of experiences, and bring back the greatest blessings for others.